Birmingham fans have been calling out for an out-and-out number one for quite a while now. Someone to go out in heat 13 and 15 and win it. And it has been a weakness for a few years now at the club. But now we have, in the signing announced tonight, an out-and-out number one. So welcome, Nick Morris. Looking forward to watching you this year. But I am a little bit flabbergasted. In fact, my flabber has never been so gasted. To read on various forums, some Brummie supporters complaining that his average is too high and therefore he won't be able to improve it. As far as I can see, there is a reason that it is that high, because he is that good. And I think back to the Jason Lyons years and nobody complained that he was too good. Oh well, only in Speedway. Good evening, gentlemen.
Very, very strange show this evening.
It's going to be a strange show, isn't it? Because nobody's actually listening live.
No.
Because we're having trouble with that. Excuse me, with our Virgin.
Oh dear. yeah. I tend to have lots of trouble with Virgins.
So but we have got people hopefully sending questions in.
Yeah.
Matt, it's been an interesting time with the AGM. Thoughts?
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? Obviously, there was a handful of changes, not too many. Of course, the one change, of course, we already knew was Leicester going up into the top flight, of course. Interesting, of course, with the pairs, of course, has been reduced to only the 3 matches, of course, given the fact that it took so long to complete last season. That's probably not a bad thing, to be honest.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah. Good news, of course, Edinburgh returning to race again in 2023.
Very pleased about that.
And of course, the player format in the championship has now been changed. So plenty there. The aggregate bonus point returning, of course, after about 10, 15 years away. Obviously, when I was growing up, that was obviously the rule, and we had some great memories from those bonus point run-offs.
Are you happy that's returned?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. The only thing that concerns me a little bit about that is going to be when you've got one track that's got such a big home advantage. You're going to get a close meeting in one meeting, then big thumping in the other one, and this is one of the reasons why I like the 1 point for getting to within 6 points of a team there, because it's still, even if the away team lost the meeting, it still gave them something to go for. Unfortunately, that wouldn't be the case next year.
I must admit, I personally think it's a retrograde step. I like the point systems the way they had, and people saying it was too complicated. Well, if that's too complicated for you to work out, you probably need to go back to school.
Yeah.
But that's my personal opinion on that.
The bonus point, aggregate bonus point, is good when it's 2 close meetings and you get a bonus point run off, because you get an extra race and there's always that tension of a bonus point run off. But unfortunately, you're not going to get a bonus point run off in every single meeting. So
no, and also it's a bit of an advantage to whoever comes second as well, because you get that bonus point run off on your home track.
Well, this is it.
So there is that side of it as well.
Yeah.
But, I think that's a small niggle for me, but apparently when they asked, the supporters said they wanted it back, so back it comes.
Yep, of course, and I think they've already, given the problems that we had completing the season last year, they've obviously done a little bit of work.
You mean the season that we still haven't completed?
Absolutely, yeah, still haven't completed it yet, so even though we've had the hottest summer in over 40 years with no rain.
And they're going to complete it next year with 2 completely different lineups.
Absolutely, yeah.
And one lineup being in the Premiership and the other lineup being in the Championship.
Yeah.
And so they're going to have to artificially strengthen the.
It's 2 teams now, isn't it? Because I think Glasgow decided not to compete in the final in the end, didn't they?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Which, because they felt it was inappropriate for the Jubilee Trophy.
Not to be in the year of the Jubilee. And the Queen had died.
The year the Queen had died, which was a bit of a strange one, I thought.
Well, it's a reason, I suppose. only in Speedway. Nice to hear that Workington's come back, and nice to hear
good.
my phone's still working.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was going to say.
You know, is that your phone? I'm desperately stabbing my phone to stop it making that noise, and it's yours.
It's my phone, I'm afraid.
Yeah. One thing I am intrigued, of course, is this tie-up between the BSBL and MyLaps, which we're going to see transponders rolled out to Premiership and Championship clubs.
That is going to be interesting.
It'll give, obviously, this technology will provide accurate information for live timing and assist in resolving close finishes, and also be made available to Eurosport and British Speedway Network for use during their broadcasts.
I mean, it'd be nice to sort of see some sort of information provided, like a notice board or something with the times coming up at the track. That would be fun, but it's going to also be interesting to see how close to the times that we've been getting they actually are.
Absolutely, yeah.
This poor guy with a stopwatch.
It'd be nice to think they could have something that can tell a referee whether a rider's actually jumped the start or whether he's made a good start, because you know,
will that be part of it as well then?
I don't know whether it will be, to be honest. I'm not whether they've got to sort of expanding it that far. We don't know. But just a quick rundown of the two main leagues. Of course, the NDL has got 6 teams there at the moment, with the possibility of 2 extra joining later on in the close season. But the Premiership, so you're going to have Bellevue, Ipswich, Kings Lynn, Leicester, Peterborough, Sheffield, Wolves. Points limit 39 points for 6 riders. Want teams to include 1 rising star. League format is unchanged, 2 home, 2 away, with the top 4 progressing to the playoffs. Knockout Cup first round: Wolves, Bellevue, Ipswich, Leicester, Kings Lynn, Sheffield and Peterborough. Well, they've already had a better season than last year because they've got a bike to the semi-finals. So the season hasn't started yet and they're already in the semi-final. So
yeah.
Premiership pairs, 3 rounds to take place at Ipswich, Sheffield and Kings Lynn. And in the Championship, so you've got Berwick, Birmingham, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Oxford, Redcar, Plymouth, Poole and Scunthorpe. 40-point limit for 7 riders. League format, 1 home and 1 away. Be interesting to get your views on that. Player format, the top 6 qualify for the playoffs and are split into 2 mini leagues of 3. League leaders get to select their 2 mini league opponents. Winner of each mini league qualify for the grand final. Knockout Cup first round: Berwick against Redcar. Quarterfinals: Berwick or Redcar will take on Glasgow. Scunthorpe against Birmingham. Poole against Plymouth and Edinburgh against Oxford. League point scoring system: 2 for a win. A draw is a superheat. Loss, no points. Aggregate bonus.
So that's new in the Championship as well, isn't it? Yeah. The superheat.
Yep.
What's wrong with the draw?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know why they've got rid of it. It's 1 home, 1 away in the Championship. If you don't get into the playoffs, that's going to be quite a short season, I think.
Isn't it? I'm not happy. I would have liked the 2 home, 2 away, as that they originally promised.
Yeah.
I desperately hope that Birmingham's going to not have a short season like we did last year.
I think it's a big season for Birmingham, isn't it, this year? You know, and obviously the team building that's been done so far, particularly with today's news of Nick Morris.
Shows ambition.
Going from the Black Country to Birmingham, of course, as we say. That's obviously a big statement, I think, for the Birmingham promotion, to get someone who is going to guarantee big points for Birmingham. And as a rider that's, as I suspect will start the season at number 1, will be someone who they can have every confidence in going out and winning the first heat.
Well, let's hope so.
Absolutely,
that's what we've been missing, that in those big heats, isn't it? That big hitting rider since Adam Ellis in the National League.
Yeah, probably is, isn't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we had when we was in the Elite League, we had a period of not having a number 1. And we always
they looked like number 1s on paper, but they weren't number 1s on the track, unfortunately, were they? So
absolutely, yeah. Bjarne Pedersen and Kasperzak.
Yeah.
But hey ho. Yeah. So We got some questions that have come through.
Yeah, I've just asked for questions regarding that, but they haven't come in yet. But I'll start from the beginning.
Usually a good place.
Elliot Hunt says, who do we think the final Wolves 2 riders will be?
Interesting
Steve
question.
Worrell one, not sure on the other.
I personally think it will be Steve Worrell, although I'm not really decided on whether I would have Steve Worrell back, because I mean he had a brilliant season last year. You know, I think he needed the move really from after. I think he'd sort of gone stale a little bit at Bellevue, and I think it gave him a fresh impetus coming to Wolves. But is he going to have as good a season next year? Because that element of surprise has gone really, hasn't it? I keep hearing rumours about Craig Cook coming to Wolves, which I'm a little bit sceptical about.
Sceptical in the sense of you don't think it's going to happen, or sceptical in the sense that
Whether it
you
would be a
don't
good
want
move.
it to happen?
Yeah, whether it would be, well, both, to be honest. I mean, I think most people will remember the 2016 playoff final when he had that little bust up with Freddie Lindgren. I know that CVS certainly made his views pretty clear on what he thought of him after in the at the past season forum that we had in August after that year. Plus the other thing as well with Craig Cook, of course, as everybody knows, he has had problems, of course, away from the track in recent seasons. I think it would be obviously if he signs for Wolves, then I'll get behind him. But I think it would be a bit of a gamble, I think, to take him on. The person that I get my sources from is 100% convinced that he's coming to Wolves, but hey ho.
Okay.
I'll keep an eye on that one. So,
who would you like if you was the manager? Who would you be?
Well, I would have loved to have seen Josh Pickering at Wolves, but obviously I don't think that's obviously not going to happen now, because I don't think his average is going to fit. I wasn't overly surprised by the news when it broke this morning that Rory Slime was coming back to Wolves, because as soon as I saw that he was going to come back and have another go, I thought, he's very, very highly thought of by the Wolves promotion. I think we did miss him last year. I think we missed his leadership in the bits. That's not a slight on Sam Masters, but he's a totally different character, I think. I feel a little bit for. I mean, I went to his benefit meeting at the end of 21. He had a big crowd for that at Wolves. It was a really good field. A lot of fans. He deserved a benefit meeting because he'd been such a great servant to British Speedway. But I can understand why some of those might be thinking, well, he's had a benefit. I've paid to a benefit fund for him, and now he's come back. I gather the reason that he's come back is because he's got a young family. They went back to Australia and they haven't settled. So I suppose in that sense it's understandable that he has come back. But whether he'll get another benefit meeting when he retires again remains to be seen. So
a benefit meeting. He should have a benefit meeting where he gives all the money back. Maybe.
I saw someone on one of the forums suggest is he gonna pay for his own fare using his benefit money fund that he got last time. But
I mean, we're laughing about it, but it happens, doesn't it? It's just one of the,
just a change of heart.
Yeah,
I got the impression that he was sort of. I mean, he should have retired, of course, at the end of 2020, but of course, 2020, as we know, didn't exist as a speedway season. Unless you count a few matches, of course, he won the British final that year at Bellevue. So we got the extra year out of him, but he's back now. So I wish him well. I think, as I say, very, very highly thought of. I mean, I think
good racer.
Yeah,
good racer.
I mean, myself, like a lot of other Wolves fans, for a long time, Rory Slime would probably not have been high on my list of favourite visiting riders. He always came across to be as being a bit of a moaning Aussie, but he's certainly won me around in the 3-4 years that he had at Wolves. He was a really, really good ambassador for the club.
And that was coming from a whinging palm. We got any more? That kept us going.
Well, there's always one, isn't there? You ask for questions. Davy Dale, where does your lap go when you stand up?
What?
Where does your lap go when you stand up? I ask for questions.
Where does your lap go?
When you stand up?
Yeah. Another one as well.
Okay.
If a cave caves in, is it still a cave? Should we move on?
Yeah,
I
please.
think it might be an idea to move. We don't want to get into trouble here, do we? So.
Pete Clark says track volunteers needed every Sunday at Perry Bar.
Yep, and I haven't been down once, so I do
And Lawrence has
apologise.
replied, of course, they get fed and
How was
watered.
your holiday, by the way?
My holiday was brilliant. Nobody here wants to know about
Nah,
that.
don't care.
I just thought I'd ask you in case anybody else and not bothered. So.
Yeah, I ain't bothered either. What do we think of riders having retirement farewell meetings, then returning after a year or two? I know we spoke about this a bit.
Yes.
Then returning after a year or two, and also promoters doing GoFundMe pages to pay for equipment, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know about that second bit. Do you know anything about that?
I've known one or two in the past who've done it, but I don't think it's don't think it's a common thing. As I say, I think it's sort of doesn't come to do with me when riders. I mean, some of them I think who had 3 benefit meetings off Wolves. Not through retiring. He had the one obviously when he broke his leg at the end of the 80s, and then he had the testimonial, and then he had his farewell. But I don't have a problem with riders having benefit meetings when they've been long servants to British Speedway, when they've ridden sort of 10, 15, 20, or in some cases 25 years. But I think it sort of it sits a little bit uncomfortably with me, to be honest, that they do that and then they come back. It's not. I don't think they do it intentionally. I don't think Rory Schlein did it with the intention of right. I'll come back. I'll have a benefit meeting and I'll come back after 2 years. I think there was a genuine intention to sort of go back home and sort of get his because obviously he's lived over here for so many years, and of course he's got a young family, and as I say, his kids have never seen their father's home country, so they've got to see it now, but they haven't settled, so back he comes for another go.
I mean, I personally haven't got a problem with it. I mean, if they've had their benefit meeting, they've had their benefit meeting. They just don't get one when they do retire.
Yeah.
It's the only way around it, really, isn't it? Next question.
Okay, so back to the AGM. Elliot Hunt says, why did they drop the 2 fixtures home and away in the championship in favour of a smaller league competition? Playoffs could have been consented to top 4, as top 6 is not required. There was plenty of dates as well. Also, I don't see what is wrong with a draw. This superheat business costs clubs more money and can take away from junior meetings. One team then gets a chance to take an extra point, which is unfair on the other team.
Okay, so let's I mean, a lot to dig into there. As far as the superheat's concerned, what is wrong with the draw? We're not Americans. Thank God. I hadn't considered the fact that you've got to pay the riders for that extra heat.
Well, that's it. The super heat, to me, it sort of benefits clubs that have got a strong top 2, doesn't it? You look at Ipswich last season. I mean, they would have loved having the super heats with Jason Doyle in their lineup and Danny
possibly
King as well, so.
For Birmingham it might be good because Nick Morris and Justin Sedgman is a decent
top 2, yeah.
Decent top 2. I don't like not being able to have a draw. It's going to leave one side feeling really flat when actually they've done really well.
That's it.
And getting no reward for it. So,
yeah, but I mean, as regards to the one at home and one away in the championship, I think that's clearly been done as a reaction to the fact that the championship took so long to complete its fixtures last season. But,
yes, in a season that didn't really suffer from bad weather over much.
Not really, no.
What is interesting to me is this new competition, which is going to be the BSN thing that they've got to tie in with the BSN. That's interesting. So one would presume that's going to be all over the
group competition. Yeah, group competition. Yeah, so sit there. So Birmingham mini league group set: Berwick, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Birmingham, Redcar, Scunthorpe, Oxford, Poole, Plymouth. Group winners and high scorers and runners up progress to the semi-finals. So.
Yeah. What was Birmingham's again?
Is it Red Car and Somerset? Scunthorpe, I think.
Not Somerset. I mean,
not Scunthorpe. I wish it was Somerset, to be fair, but Birmingham, Redcar and Scunthorpe. So, chance to welcome Redcar back to Perry Bar again.
hey, that's all finished and done with now.
Yeah. You've even got a Redcar top on, so.
Well.
And on that note of the Brummies, Elliot wants to know any ideas on who the final Brummies heat leader and the other two riders will be. Got 14.01 points left to play with.
So we've got 3 riders to get, haven't we? I would be very surprised if Lee Complin isn't back.
Yeah, I think he made a big impression, didn't he, last year? So
At reserve is gonna be good. I don't know what Tom Brennan's average is, although I did read somewhere that he was going to Glasgow, but I haven't seen anything.
Yeah,
about
I've seen
it.
a couple of things about him going to Glasgow, but
I was about to ask our fellow listeners to tell us what Tom Brennan's average was.
But, difficult one. Well, I can find out
can't.
for you on here, can't I? So
I would imagine it's around about 8, isn't
I
it?
do have my uses, so
Not much. Leicester and Sheffield look strong so far, but Aces are going to be strong also. Bewley back, being leaked on a Polish website. Also, don't rule out Lambert also, says Jeff Daniels.
It'd be good to have them both back.
Yeah, about 6 weeks ago, I think I said on here, didn't I? I thought that Lambert, wouldn't surprise me if Lambert was back next year. I'm not quite so sure now. To be honest, I think all the stuff that went on at the end of last season with about whether he was, made him missing that the league meetings at Bellevue Road afterwards, after they'd won the title. Maybe that would have handed him back. It would be great. I mean, especially if Brennan's there as well. You've got Bewley. If you'd have Bewley, Brennan, and Lambert all in the same team, that would be
that would be a team and a half, wouldn't it?
A team and a half, yeah. Three of British. British Speedway's probably the best 3 young British riders that are coming through the ranks at the moment. So,
and Tom Brennan's average is.
It is.
One job, that's all he's got. One job.
Talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Okay then.
688.
688.
Yeah.
You see that would fit okay, wouldn't it? I'm surprised it's that low, if I'm honest.
Or does that include the 5% reduction?
Well, I don't think it is, but I mean it's there or there. It's going to be there.
Well, if that's the case, then it's 722, but it's either 722 or 688. So.
But I think that's doable with, what do we say, had 14 to play with?
Yeah. 14.01, yeah.
Makes the team might make the team a little bit top heavy, that's the only thing. There'll be plenty of race wins in that team, I think, but it's no good having race wins if you're having a rider that just trails in last as well at the same race.
It'd almost be like having a pool situation. We've got 3 good heat leaders.
Yeah. So,
but if it's if it's the 6, you've got 4 points approximately for the other 2 riders, haven't you?
I think it's fair to say that I don't see either Ashley Morris or James Shane's been back at.
I think James Shanes has virtually ruled himself out from reading between the lines of what he said in the Speedway Star.
Yeah.
I think it's a good decision for him personally. Because he can't get too many more injuries, can he?
No, that's it. So,
Ashley Morris, I'm sorry about, because he's a great lad, and I think he's got the makings of a decent rider as well.
Yeah. I think the problem that Ashley's had over the last few years is he just hasn't ridden enough meetings. He's not just only doing the one league. So
yeah. So I hope he gets the team, if indeed he wants.
Simon Corbett, our current Prediction League champion, says championship 40-point average gets lower every year. Probably pay more to watch lesser riders. Let's diminish the sport again. So he's sort of gone off on one there.
I'm sort of with him in a way.
Yeah.
Because I've gone on record as saying it should be 42.5 and that's it.
Yeah.
42.5 gives you a 45 all draw if everybody scores to their average. On both teams. That's what it should be built to.
Yeah.
And the problem is that once you start building to lower averages, teams become weaker, and then the heat leaders have easier rides, and everybody has slightly easier rides, and their averages inflate. And then you think, well, they've got this average, this average, this average. We better cut the averages down again. So it should be 42.5.
Let's have a look at the announcements that have been made then in the league so far. So Bellevue haven't made any signings yet. Ipswich, they've signed Jason Doyle, of course. Mm-hmm. Frederick Jacobson is the only name on the team sheet so far at Kings Lynn. Peterborough, of course, haven't named anybody yet either. But the busiest clubs have been Wolves, Leicester and Sheffield. So Leicester so far have got Max Frick, Chris Harris, Richard Lawson and Nick Morris. Sheffield have got Jack Holder, Tobias Muslak, David Balago and Lewis Kerr. And Wolves have got Luke Becker, Sam Masters, Ryan Douglas, Leon Flint and Rory Schlein.
Luke Becker's another rider I wouldn't mind seeing, by the way, riding at Birmingham.
Yeah, I've heard that he has been discussed, but he's been sort of advised not to race championship. I don't know whether that's true, but probably could do with riding a bit more often, I think, because he's got a huge amount of potential. He's midway through last season, he really found some good form, but just didn't really maintain it.
Didn't kick on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's have a look at let's look at Bellevue, for instance, do we? I mean, somebody said that Dan Bewley is signed for them.
Yeah, it's been, I think it was on his Polish club's website, they put that there's nothing being confirmed yet, although I'd be shocked if he wasn't back there. I think he does need to be right. Both him and Lambert, I think, need to be racing in the UK next year, because they're at that stage of their career where they need to be riding as often as they possibly can.
So do you think Lambert could be back to Kings Lynn?
Not so sure. Personally, I think if he does come back to the UK, it'll be at Bellevue.
Okay.
Because they could fit both him and Bewley in. Their averages are relatively low still from when they last rode in the UK. So, but with Bellevue, of course, are going to be
makes a mockery of the averages a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a little bit. But hey, that's the way things go. Unfortunately, clubs have done that for years. They've a rider's had a bad season and suddenly becomes sought after because he's on a false average. So.
Yes, yeah. It's where Stefan Nielsen is, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's on a false average.
I think Leicester have made a pretty good start to their team building.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah,
pretty strong top four. That is, obviously Nick Morris knows the track well from his championship days. Max Frick, I think, is obviously an outstanding rider. Of course, he was the full guy for Bellevue, so that sort of suggests that Bewley or Lambert or both are coming back. Richard Lawson, a good solid competitive rider, middle order rider, lower heat leader, and Coventry legend Chris Harris at Leicester. Interesting one. I can remember going there for their first top flight meeting back in 2014, and he guested for Wolves, and I think he got booed as he walked onto the track before the meeting. To be fair, I think they were warming up for when Coventry came back. So
it's going to be interesting to see where Bomber's going to end up in the championship.
Yeah. Was a guest?
Well, it's going to be probably
guest
for just guest for everybody.
So Sheffield, Jack Holder, Tobias Muslak, David Balago, Lewis Kerr, again solid so far. Good to see David Balago back in the UK.
It is,
good rider. And obviously the Wolves team: Becker, Masters, Douglas, Flint, and Schlein. That's with the exception of Rory Schlein so far. That's
last year's team.
Yeah. So
they didn't do so bad did they last year?
Well, until the semi-final. Yeah. Unfortunately, the last three seasons have been semi-final capitulations. So.
Yes.
Let's drop into the championship then. So Edinburgh, Plymouth, Glasgow, Poole and Redcar yet to make any announcements so far. But for Berwick, well, they've completed their team. Leon Flint, Thomas Jorgensen, Joy Etheridge, Jonas Knudsen, Nathan Stoneman, Rory Schlein and Connor Coles. Birmingham, Well, let's start with Berwick first of all.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad team, is it?
It looks a good team at the moment because so many other teams haven't signed any riders yet.
Well, there is
I
that.
think if the league starts now, they'd have a pretty good chance of winning it. So.
Rory Schline's a good signing for
Berwick,
for
I think, yeah. It's a long old way for him to go,
isn't it?
Every week, mind you. But
we'll be doing the journey with Leon, of course.
Yeah, well, I think that'll be good for Leon as well, having the two of them both in this. Because obviously Leon going to Wolves when Rory was already there, so. I think he's a sort of good rider to take under his wing, and as we know, Leon Flint had a really made some real good progress last year with winning 2.
A lot of time for Leon Flint.
Yeah, I've got he's a good lad, yeah, and I think he's got potential to really go far in the sport. Birmingham, James Pearson, Justin Sedgman, Stefan Nielsen, and of course
Nick Morris,
as was announced today.
I think they've made quite a bit of a statement with that Nick Morris signing.
Yeah.
There's ambition there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I know the track's been worked on every weekend since we closed.
Yeah.
And anybody wants to go down there and volunteer, just turn up, and Lawrence will make you a cup of coffee. It sometimes tastes quite nice. But also, I think that the signing of Stefan Nielsen as an asset shows ambition as well.
Yeah, he had he had some difficult times last season, didn't he?
He started off really well.
Started off really well, never really maintained it, and of course got crocked before the end of the season, as did pretty much everybody else in the team. So, yeah, I think James Pearson will obviously benefited from having the year's experience and knowing.
You can't not have had him last year and then.
Yeah, it would have been completely pointless, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think he's showed his potential.
Yeah, and he'll benefit, I think, from having Sedgman and Morris in the team. Two fellow Aussies will obviously take him under their wing. So,
and Sedgman's exceeded most people's expectations.
Well, I mean, considering the almost disgust when it was announced that he was coming back to Birmingham. Yeah, but I think when we were both at Birmingham's presentation evening, and you could tell from what he was saying about how he felt about the Birmingham promotion, he was a no-brainer that he was going to come back. Absolutely, yeah. Oxford, of course, they've completed their team as well, so they've got Sam Masters, who's left Edinburgh, Lewis Kerr, Scott Nichols, Cameron Heaps, Jordan Jenkins, Henry Atkins, and Luke Colleen.
Luke Colleen, I know very little about. It looks quite top heavy.
Does a bit, yeah. Well, Scott Nichols only doing the championship this year, not doing the Premiership.
Is that definite?
Yeah,
he said
that's
that.
what he said. Yeah. Well, at the moment, of course, I suppose as the season starts, I suppose there'll be a few.
He doesn't stop him from guessing, I suppose.
Will be maybe in his ear a little bit, So, but good. They've obviously got a good number one now in Sam Masters. Arguably the best number one in the league. There's any doubt about that.
Going to be some interesting battles between Sam Masters and Nick Morris, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, they know each other really well anyway. So,
yes.
I think that's obviously to say a bit top heavy. It's going to need one of those four riders at the bottom there: Heaps, Jenkins, Atkins, and Colleen, to really step up. I do rate Henry Atkins. He always, certainly whenever I saw him riding, he was riding for Plymouth in the National League. You certainly always ride Birmingham very well.
Yes.
And Scunthorpe, they're the only other team that have been active so far. So far, they've got Joe Thompson, Zane Kennedy, and Connor Mountain. Connor Mountain's made a lot of progress, I think, over the last.
Oh gosh, yeah, he was almost like a different rider last year. He was a rider I was half hoping was end up at Birmingham.
Yeah.
But, so let's do a little bit of reading between the lines then. Glasgow.
Well, they've been
Tom Brennan or not Tom Brennan is obviously the.
They seem to have been clearing the decks a little bit, don't they, Glasgow? Because most of the announcements they've been making on social media have been saying such and such is not coming back next year. Such and such is not coming back next year. So
usually just before they get announced for whichever team they're riding.
What's your what are you in favour of, announcing all the signings in one go or drip feeding them in? I
think drip feeding them in because it keeps interest up. And I also think signing in Birmingham's case, for instance, signing Nick Morris just before Christmas is a nice little Christmas present.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. It has really. I mean, let's use Birmingham as the type of drip feed. It has really brought up people's interest in the team. Or, lots of people discussing what's next, who's the next, and who's not going to be the next, and who they want and who they don't want.
Yeah.
I don't think you get any of that when it's just here's our 7 riders, bang. There is no discussion as such in that. Not in the same way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, not meant. Some clubs do it most years, don't they? They just do it. Right, we've got our 1 to 7. Here they are.
Mm.
You've got a 4-month wait for the new season.
What's your preference?
I prefer the drip feed in them in, to be honest. I think, to be fair, most of these teams already know where their 1 to 7 is going to be anyway. They just sort of string it out as long as possible for, as you say, for the publicity. So, but
which I'm all in favour of.
Yeah, I think Oxford will be hoping for big things next year, won't they? Because they had, I think they were. I mean, I've rated them highly last season, but it never really got going, did it?
Them, yeah.
Although I suppose really for Oxford, their big thing really was just establishing themselves.
And they did that.
They did. They had some great crowds at Oxford, and love to be able to think that I might be able to get down there next year. So. Because that is now, especially from a Birmingham perspective, because that's now Birmingham's local derby. So.
Exactly. And yet we only pay them once.
Yeah.
Unless we get them in the knockout cup at some point, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Or in the playoffs, of course.
Or the playoffs, yeah.
Think positive. So
I am fairly positive that we're going to make the playoffs.
Difficult to say at the moment.
It is difficult to say.
Haven't signed anybody yet.
But it just feels a good team at the moment.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Birmingham, even though they are the most important team in the whole of Speedway. Do we have any more questions?
Okay. Robert Hackers says, why do they have AGM meetings? No change, every fan fed up with promoters, no action, doubling up guests and rider replacement, coverage of Speedway on Eurosport, terrible 1 week miss, 2 week back, another week miss. You can see where I'm going with this guy. Really, yeah. British Speedway should be on every week, he says.
I think he should watch another sport.
Yeah.
British Speedway should be on every week. That's certainly what we're used to.
Well, it's what we got with Sky, isn't it? And with BT as well. I think I've said this before. I think I think Speedway was always onto a real good thing with Sky, and they never took advantage of it, unfortunately. I think Sky in the end got frustrated by the fact that they were spending so much money
on rained-off meetings,
getting everything set up for meetings, because it wasn't cheap for them to do it.
No.
And then someone comes along and says, "Sorry, the track's too wet, we're not running." So
yeah,
I would like to see it on. I would like, I think it does need to be on. I'll balance it out really, because yes, you want to see coverage of Speedway, but I often wonder whether it would be better to have a highlights package
that's been
every
said
week
before,
rather than having a live meeting, because then you can showcase the best bits from the week rather than just having people just
a sort of match of the day thing. That would require, of course, cameras in every single. But then most places do record their own.
Well, that's it. So.
That could be used, and that's something that I think the BSN should think about.
BSN was definitely something that was a big positive last year, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
They obviously had one or two issues, obviously, with meetings earlier on the season, but I think from what I saw of it, their coverage as
got better and better and better. They learned,
and it's affordable as well. It's not, certainly not massively expensive to.
No, not at all.
To buy. So
I brought the season pass, and I've never done that before.
Did you watch every single meeting, or did you?
No, I didn't. I've still got some. I've started going back over some of them and watching some of them in the close season.
Well, that's the good thing as well, is once you've bought them, that's it. You can go back and watch them any time. So,
give us some more of the questions in that one question that you just read, because there was a few points in that.
Again, from Robert Hackers, you mean? Okay, so doubling up, guest and rider replacement.
Yeah, so he's moaning about the things that we all moan about, really. Yeah, we would all love to see doubling up not happen. It was the worst idea.
It's impossible. It's impossible to stop it now, unfortunately. I think because I think ultimately the riders want the doubling up because they want the extra meetings, which you can understand. Really, if I was a rider, I'd want.
Yeah, particularly as there's so few teams. What we actually need is more teams.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Get more teams and then you've got a better chance of getting rid of doubling up. And, you have to wonder, why not bring some of these National League teams up? You're going to have to share the riders out over, you're going to have to thin them out, and so the standard will go down. You would
have a situation initially, of course, where you'd have a lot of riders that would be bit out of their depth, unfortunately, because we've created the rider shortage through doubling up. So
it's the only way. That's the only way of doing it.
Yeah,
I mean, the Premiership are doing their bit with the Rising Star. Thank you. I was going to say Fast Track Rider, and that's
1970s.
That was
not quite 1970s.
Yeah,
so.
That was the previous incarnation.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good idea, and people. I mean. Leon Flint's really benefited from it.
Yeah, I've just the thing is though the Premiership, or as it was before the Elite League, has tended to do more things to try and promote younger English riders than the second tier has.
I think that's true.
Yeah. I think this is the problem when you got clubs.
I would like to see the Championship do a Rising Star from the National League.
It just offers that progression, doesn't it? Natural progression. So
yeah, absolutely, and then they need that, and it's less pressure on them as well.
Yeah,
because they know that really the people that they're racing against are the other rising stars, and that's the race that's important. The rest, great if I get some points, but and pressure. I mean, look at. I think Pearson last year, he didn't have a lot of pressure put on him to perform. It was all about learn how to do it, really.
Yeah. There's going to be more expectation on him, I think, this year.
Of course. There'll be more expectation by him, I would imagine. But hopefully he can go through the season without getting injured again.
Yeah.
He was the only one that managed it.
So.
Justin Sedgman managed it as well.
Yeah.
He only did half.
But he didn't do the whole season, though, did he?
So, next bit on that.
We're still on that one.
There was a few more on that.
Okay, coverage of your Speedway on Eurosport. Fed up with promoters, no action.
Right at the beginning, he said, "Why do they have an AGM?
Why do they have an AGM meetings? There's no change. Every fan gets fed up."
Okay, no change. They do make changes, don't they?
They do make changes, although it tends to be sort of tweaking this, tweaking that. I think there's occasions really where they don't really address the issues. I think the biggest thing for me is basically 2 or 3 days of let's sit down, let's try and let's see if we can get more people into stadiums. That's the obvious one.
Yeah, I mean the problem is.
Sorry.
The problem is that the sport is run by the people that run the clubs.
Yeah.
I can't think of another sport that does that.
No.
Certainly not in this country. It might be in America. Maybe they do that. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think they do. I think they have franchises, don't they? And so they have. That's why they have AGMs, because they want to. Each promoter has got his own agenda, and he wants this sorted out and that sorted out, and somebody else, well, I don't want that sort. So they have to have AGMs to shout at each other. I think from what
in some cases, walk out.
Yeah, they wouldn't have to have AGMs if they didn't run the sport. If they had an FA, for instance, or something like that. I don't know how you get from the situation that they're in to that situation. I don't know how you would do that, but I mean the other thing is that somebody, as people have mentioned before, a Barry Hearn type figure, but they don't grow on trees.
No, unfortunately they don't. So
But that's, I mean, it's not rocket science. That's what needs to happen. Without that happening, nothing will really change for the better. But if you're running your own club, are you going to vote? It's like turkeys voting for Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately.
So that's, yeah. Okay.
Going back to the Rich Thomas's point on what do we think of riders having retirement farewell meetings, and so forth, so forth. Peacock replied with, "I will never get that 20 quid back." GoFundMe pages don't raise as much as you think. GoFund take a large chunk of cash.
I might go and tap on Rory's shoulder before the practice night.
Can I
have my 20 quid back, please, Rory?
Yeah,
you should make a line or line up, and when he comes in and says, "What's that line?" We're all waiting for our money, mate.
Yeah, we tend to forget that they GoFundMe and Just Giving and so forth and so forth. They do take a cut. They don't do for nothing. And we've caught up. So I have to thank everybody who has posted on the page. And we really are sorry. I've been trying for the last 50 minutes while the show's been going to try and get reconnected, but no, Virgin aren't having it. Sorry. It's
the trouble with those virgins, they don't want it.
Yeah.
You might have to cut that bit out.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
As the bishop said to the actress. Anyway. So, is there anything else on the AGM that we haven't covered? We've spoke about the transponders. I think that's a really positive move.
Yeah. Obviously, obviously, if we were on, we could probably get more people contributing about their questions about the transponders. I'm certainly looking forward to that. Let's drop into the National League now, because of course as has always been a bit of a strange thing that they have an AGM that's totally separate.
Yeah, because they're told what they can, what they can't do before.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because they're a development league.
Yeah. Right, okay.
Okay, so the statement that was released yesterday, actually, 6 clubs have confirmed their participation in the 2023 National Development League, with 2 more hopefully set to join by early in the new year. A preliminary meeting of clubs took place on Tuesday, where it was agreed that full details on competition structures will be deferred to January the 17th, when the complete membership of the 3rd tier is known. Champions Leicester will be back to defend their title and will be joined by Bellevue, Berwick, Kent, Oxford and newcomers Workington, who make a welcome return to the sport at the redeveloped North Side facility. The league is awaiting confirmation from Armadale and Mildenhall, who are currently looking into various availability issues, and it is very much hoped that both clubs will come to the task next year. Plymouth have declared their intention to step away from NDL racing in 2023, but the door does remain open to any other club who wishes to participate prior to January the 17th. A points limit of 42 has been agreed, and the cut-off date has been brought forward by a fortnight compared to this year, which will now be September the 17th. The NDL will also bring in the point scoring system adopted by the Premiership and the Championship, including the aggregate bonus points and superheats for drawn encounters, meaning a unified scoring system across the sport. And it is also anticipated that the transponder system being rolled out across the 2 senior leagues will be extended into the 3rd tier during 2023. The BSB will update further on the full NDL structure for next season when confirmations are received. So the big news, obviously, welcome back Workington.
Absolutely.
From having seen the photographs of what they've done up there as well, it looks really impressive and
a lovely, nice track.
Yeah, a lovely setting as well, because it's right on the coast, isn't it? So you're going to be able to, see the.
I might see if I can get up there at some point, if I can find a day that it's warm enough, because that was always a problem at Workington. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to say there, is there?
Well, until we know who these next 2 teams are, of course, obviously we anticipate that it's going to be Armadale and Mildenhall, so
which would be good. I mean, it's fairly healthy compared to the other leagues, if those 2 teams are able to join.
Yeah,
and it sounds like there's a few other people that have expressed an interest from reading between the lines of what I was saying there.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to. I mean, obviously there were no riders have been signed or anything, have there? In that,
not that late now.
It's going to be difficult for them to. I mean, it's unfair for them to be doing to sign riders until all the participants.
Some clubs do it in the other two leagues, don't they? So.
Yeah,
which I never understand. You know, they must obviously, but they must have some idea as to what sort of structures
you
are
would
going
have
to be in
thought
place
so.
before they start signing people. So
you would have thought so. Oh dear!
We're keeping you awake.
I'm sorry, was that a yawn?
It was, yes.
I'm sorry, that's impossible
I have
do.
to apologise. I had a COVID jab yesterday, and it's made me a bit. Yeah,
it does affect you when you get to your age.
everything affects me when I get to this age. I promise you that. So I think what we should do for a bit of fun is...
I'm not doing that again. I told you about that.
No, it did get messy. Is make a prediction based upon what we know now, which is very little, on who we think's going to win each league. And then when we come back and do our prediction based on knowing who's in each team, it's interesting to see if we've kept the same ideas. So I'm going to go with the absolute sage, because I'm going to copy what he says, because he knows everything that's in Webber. So who's going to win the Premiership?
Oh, okay then. I'm going to go for Paul.
They'll do well to win that league.
Okay, who's in it? It's not going to be Wolves. Bellevue?
Bellevue.
Yeah, I'll go for Bellevue, yeah. Okay. I like the name.
And you, Matt?
I'll say Sheffield, because they, really obviously they finished top of the league last year, but had a good effort in the final, but unfortunately not to be.
I mean, it's very difficult to say Bellevue because they haven't signed one single rider, but I'm actually going to say Bellevue as well, because I feel...
Now they've got that monkey off the back of finally getting that first title in 29 years. That's obviously released a bit of pressure off them now, hasn't it? So
Webby Championship is going to win the championship.
Why are you coming to me first?
Because it's funny.
Right, okay, let me have a quick think. Let me recollect. Who's in the championship? Remind me again.
Paul.
No.
Birmingham. Scunthorpe.
No, they're not going to do anything.
Red Car. Glasgow. Edinburgh.
I'll go for Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
Yeah. For a laugh.
It'd be nice for them in a way, given that they might not have a place to race after next year. But Matt?
Paul. I think that's a safe bet, isn't it?
Yeah.
They shouldn't really be in that league, to be honest, Paul, but...
I also am saying Paul, because, as you say.
Yeah.
And this is going to be funny.
The NDL.
The NDL.
Okay, don't tell me. Mildenhall.
Well, there might be.
Might be.
Oh, yeah?
We'll put Mouldy in for you.
Kent.
Okay, Kent. Leicester are in it again, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they won it last 2 years, haven't they?
I'm going to say Leicester.
We'll see how close we are when we reconvene in March. Then.
Well, what would be interesting to see whether the prediction without knowledge is better than the prediction with knowledge.
Especially my knowledge.
Yeah.
Just quickly before we go, Birmingham Speedway Supporters Club Christmas Party.
Yes.
21st December, 6:30 till 7:30. Club party. Kids go free. 7:30 till late adult party at Aston Manor Cricket Club. £5 for members, £7 for non-members. Supporters can sign up to the Supporters Club on the evening for the 2023 season. Presentation of honorary membership to Mr. Brian Buck and to Tony Mole. This information just released.
Just in.
Yep. Raffle buffet and interviews with management. There you go.
It's the Supporters Club have what's the word? Restarted, rebooted. Rebooted is a good one.
Yeah.
And I know Andy Dugmore, who's sort of been the catalyst behind all of this.
Yeah.
He's got some really good things. So
Yeah, he's
get yourselves
worked
in
hard.
the in the supporters club if you can.
Let's finish off on a positive as well, of course. Coventry managed to, for now, foot beaten off Brandon Estates.
Oh, that is great news, isn't it?
Yeah, guys, it's the first battle they've won, but it's certainly not the end of.
It's not the end of the war.
There's a long way to go for that one. So
it's a great start. Couldn't be better. So yeah, that's a Merry Christmas to everybody at Coventry there. Merry Christmas to all of you. I hope you all get
winter.
the riders that you want, unless they're the riders that I want. And we'll see you in 2023.
Yep.
Wow. Take care, everyone.
Good night. Happy Christmas.
Good night.
Welcome to the Speedway